Right then, let's get a good dose of Hazard and Pals. While the 8 Harry Potter films and 7 Harry Potter books are very clearly aimed at families and young teenagers, there's still a good deal of the dark and nasty stuff all floating about the place. From Bellatrix torturing Neville Longbottom's parents to the point of insanity, to Fenrir Greyback munching on magical children and turning them into werewolves, the Harry Potter universe is swelling with the brutal stuff. And at the centre of it all are the spells, the incantations that can maim, destroy, disintegrate, and all sorts of other nasty nonsense. And so here we've collected some of the most foul, most heinous, and most likely to be mispronounced by me. With this in mind, I'm Jules from Whatculture.com, and here are the 10 deadliest spells in the Harry Potter universe. Number 10. Serpensortia. This snaky spell shoots out a serpent from the tip of the caster's wand, making it a poisonous little number and Indiana Jones's worst nightmare. Draco Malfoy, aka the Milky Bar Bitch, once fired off this spell in a room of inexperienced children in the Chamber of Secrets. And who does that? Luckily for the vast amount of students present, this snake was quickly dispatched by Severus Snape and no harm befell anyone. But on another day, the outcome could have been much worse. Serpensortia, after all, is meant to be an offensive spell, and that means that the animals it conjures are primed and ready to strike. Naughty racist little lad, you. Number 9. Defendo. Defendo is mostly used to rip and tear objects like paper, but it could also be used on humans, resulting in something similar to a hamster meeting your parents' office shredder. Poor little Humphrey. Though Defendo always seems to be used for non-violent means in the Harry Potter universe, shown in Harry splitting the ice to reach the Sword of Gryffindor in the Deathly Hallows Part 1, or in the books where Ron uses it to trim the sleeves of his dress robes before the Yule Ball, the deadly possibilities it possesses cannot be undersold. It can cut and shred your opponent like a cheese grater on fleshy flesh cheese. Defendo is just one of many spells like this in the wizarding world, ones that seem harmless if used safely, but could prove fatal if abused or misused. Number 8. Confringo. We all know that one person we just love to explode, and Confringo provides a sufficient means to that end. But what makes this particular spell especially deadly is the fact it could be easily used to take out a whole group of people in one fell swoop. Confringo has been used many times with devastating effects, both on page and on screen. Most notably in Deathly Hallows Part 1, wherein Hermione casts a spell and destroys Harry's wand in the process. Old No-Nose is a fan of this as well, casting it against Harry several times, and although it fails to kill the boy wonder, it decimates the area around him. Number 7. Imperio. Imperio is an unforgivable curse that's more indirectly deadly than in-your-face deadly. It won't cause explosions, cuts, or even instant death, but it will give you full control over another person's actions, rendering them completely helpless. We see Imperio being used by Barty Crouch Jr. during Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Barty cast the spell on a spider to demonstrate its effects to his class of 4th-year students, mentioning that he can make the spider do anything, even drown itself. We see later Victor Crumb under the influence of the spell, as he attacks Cedric Diggory in the maze with no control over his actions or state of mind. Imperio certainly isn't outright deadly, but it's a scary proposition, and once you manage to get somebody under its effects, it can be as potent as you want it to be. Number 6. Fiendfyre. Fire in general is rather dangerous, but it's even more dangerous when said fire becomes almost sentient and can hunt you down like one of the raptors from Jurassic Park. And unfortunately for Harry, Ron, and Hermione towards the end of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, that's exactly the predicament they find themselves in, being chased through the maze-like room of requirement by an enormous cloud of flames. Fiendfyre is infused with dark magic, which makes it incredibly hard to control for inexperienced casters. In the aforementioned film, the spell is cast by Gregory Goyle, who displays his lack of experience when he loses control of the fire, attempts to evade it, and then falls to his death. Number 5. Repello Inimicum. Given how useful Repello Inimicum can be, it's a wonder we don't see it being cast in more places across the wizarding world. It could be used to stop intruders gaining access to Hogwarts or stop prisoners escaping Azkaban so damn easily. But in the Harry Potter films, we see the charm being used only once, at the start of Deathly Hallows Part 2. With Voldemort and his troops looming in, the Hogwarts professors gather in the courtyard and shoot the spell high up in the sky, creating a protective barrier around the entirety of the school and its grounds. The potency of Repello Inimicum is then displayed, as some of Voldy's goons make a run for the bridge being guarded by Neville Longbottom, only for a handful of them to be disintegrated totally in a swirl of bright blue light. The spell is ludicrously lethal when it's used to enclose a specific location, and though the barrier can be broken down with enough force, it takes a lot of time, power, and effort to do so. Number 4. Engorgio Skullus. Given how potentially deadly this particular hex could be, it's surprising we don't see it being used more often throughout the Harry Potter series. Engorgio Skullus is a variation of the Engorgement Charm, a spell that, you guessed it, causes the target to increase in size. But where the Engorgement Charm will enlarge the target as a whole, Engorgio Skullus will specifically target the skull and any surrounding tissue, giving the victim a head that looks like Adam Blompier's ego, meaning that it's vastly out of proportion with the rest of their frame. And obviously the consequences here would be dire. The head would likely collapse, its weight unable to be supported by a normal-sized neck, causing blood to stop flowing to the brain, depriving it of oxygen, and ultimately leading to a rather unpleasant death. Engorgio Skullus may not be as common as some of the other spells in the Potterverse, but it's as effective as any. Number 3. Sectumsempra. Invented by none other than Severus Snape as a way to defend himself against the excessive amount of bullying he received in his school days, Sectumsempra is arguably the single most brutal spell in the wizarding world. Because, unfortunately for the victim, it won't kill you straight away. It'll make you bleed and suffer, dying slowly and incredibly painfully as you spill more of the red stuff than my drunk aunt playing charades. George Weasley lost an ear to Sectumsempra during Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and because of the dark, advanced nature of the spell, the ear was not able to be reattached via any known magical means. It's violent, difficult to reverse, and tears its victims up at the flick of a wrist. If there's only one thing we can take away from this, it's not to bully people until they snap, or even bully at all. I mean maybe a light teasing now and again, but nothing too harsh, okay? Number 2. Entrail-Expelling Curse. The Entrail-Expelling Curse is one that we'll never get to see being used on screen, and that's not really a surprise given that Harry Potter is a family-friendly series and this particular spell would make a mess akin to those found in the Saw films. That being said, it wouldn't be a surprise if we learnt that it had been used by Voldemort and his army of sadistic Death Eaters. Expelling a person's entrails would certainly come in handy for, winning a battle, and there's a high chance, almost 100%, that it would be incredibly painful, bloody, and just very unpleasant to witness. And number 1, Avada Kedavra. It's no surprise to see Avada Kedavra on top of this list, really. I mean, by sheer definition, it's literally the deadliest spell in the Harry Potter universe, and its potency has been displayed many times across the series of wizarding books and movies. It's one of the 3 unforgivable curses, spells that if used will instantly land the perpetrator in a whole heap of trouble and likely a French kiss from a Dementor. Avada Kedavra can't be blocked or deflected in any way, and leaves its victim helpless, blasted by a ray of green light and swiftly met with an instant death. We've seen several powerful wizards like Sirius Black, Albus Dumbledore, and the Potters meet their maker at the hands of Avada Kedavra. It's an all-consuming, terrifying, and definitely deadly spell. And the only positive that we can really take from it is that the death seems to be painless, which unfortunately won't really be any consolation to the deceased. And that's our list. Can you think of any charms that we forgot to conjure up? Then let us know about them in the comments section below. And if you want to fall under my spell, you can do so by following me here on my personal Twitter, RetroJ with a 0. If you enjoyed the video, then like, share, and subscribe for more. I've been Jules for Whatculture.com, and I'll see you soon.